Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be going through my March wrap up. So this video is going up a little bit late because this is the first opportunity that I've had to properly film in a few weeks, but I'm going to structure this video the same way that I've structured all of my wrap ups so far this year. I'm going to go through my ratings for each book that I read, and then I'll pick out a few to talk about in a little more detail. So yeah, there will be timestamps in the description just in case you wanted to skip around if there's any particular books that you're interested in. But let's start by going through my ratings for all of the books that I read. The first book that I started in March, and also the last book that I finished in March, was Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. So this is the third book in the Tawny Man trilogy and the ninth book in the Realm of the Eldlings overall, and I gave this, I think, a 4.5 stars. However, this was my least favourite in the trilogy because I didn't love the way that it ended, and obviously I can't say anything because of spoilers, but I'm glad that there's another Fitz trilogy after this. I'm really excited actually for the Rainwild Chronicles because I think I prefer the books that are set in that part of the world more than the Fitz books. My plan is to pick up the Rainwild Chronicles over the summer and into autumn, and then if I've got the schedule right, I think I'll finally finish the Realm of the Eldlings early next year. The next book that I picked up was The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty, which I gave 5 stars. I then read Verity by Colleen Hoover, which I gave 3.5 stars, and I also read After the End by Clare Mackintosh, which I thought I gave a 3.5 stars as well, but according to my spreadsheet I gave it 4 stars. The Green Mile by Stephen King I gave a 4.5 stars. I'm Not Your Baby Mother by Candice Brathwaite I didn't rate because I don't tend to rate non-fiction. However, if I was to rate it, I guess I would give it 5 stars because I didn't have any negatives to say about it, and I would recommend it if you're looking for a memoir like this. Before They Are Hanged by Abercrombie I gave 4 stars. This is the second book in the first Law series, and I have been enjoying this series. However, it's not quite given me that 5-star feeling yet, and I think it's because this is a very slow and very character-driven series, which I like. However, I've also found it a little bit frustrating that it takes so long to work out what the plot is. It's the kind of series where I think if I were to ever reread it, I would get a lot more out of it because I would know more about what's going on and I would be able to pay more attention to the little details. But for most of this book, I was very confused. However, I still like the atmosphere and I am excited to pick up the next book. My plan is to read it next month, and then I'm currently filming a spoiler-free reading vlog for this series, so I'll be able to get that live also hopefully next month. The Travelling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa I gave 5 stars, and I think this was actually my favourite book that I read this month. The next book that I read was The X-Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which I gave 4 stars, and then the final book that I read in March was The Jigsaw Man by Nadine Matheson, which I gave a 3.5 stars. So those are all the books that I read in March. Let's talk about a few of these in more detail, and the first book that I wanted to talk about is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty, which, as I said, I gave 5 stars. This was my favourite book of the month until I read another book that I gave 5 stars, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. I really liked the atmosphere, and I just love Shannon Chakraborty's character writing. This was very different to the David Bad trilogy, which I wasn't expecting. It's a very different writing style because the way that it's told, it's as if the main character, Amina, is telling her story to this scribe who's documenting what happened in her life. So every so often, Amina will break the fourth wall and she'll address this scribe, and I didn't love that. I felt like the humour at times didn't quite land. However, when I reread this book before the second book comes out, I'd love to listen to the audiobook because I've heard that the audiobook has been done really well. Amina Al-Sirafi is basically a former pirate who, when she was at the height of her career, she was formidable and people still know her name, even now she's been retired for many years. She gave up that life to protect her young daughter and she's become a bit of a recluse. However, someone finds her near the start of this book and offers her a lot of money to go on this quest, and it's the kind of money that she can't turn down because it would set her family up for life. So yeah, we basically follow Amina as she gets the old crew back together and they go off on this quest. And yeah, I really liked the world in this. It is the same world as the Daevabad trilogy. However, you don't have to have read that to be able to enjoy this because this is set a long time before the Daevabad trilogy. So there's a few Easter eggs which I did pick up on, I think. One in particular I picked up on, but yeah, they're separate stories and they're separate tones as well. This is more of a fun fantasy, whereas the Daevabad trilogy was a lot more serious. There's a lot of LGBTQ plus rep as well, which I always appreciate, and I am excited to see what direction the rest of the series goes in. I feel like there's potential for a really great found family in this series, and yeah, I'm really excited for the next book to come out. I'm hoping we don't have to wait too long. Fairly sure that this is going to be one of my favourite books of the year, and I think it's really interesting that two of my favourite books so far this year have both featured older female main characters. So if you have any recommendations for other books like that, let me know, because I feel like it's a very niche thing that I need to explore more in books. Another book that I gave 5 stars and that I am fairly confident is going to end up on my favourite books of the year list is The Travelling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. So this is contemporary fiction and it's also translated fiction because it was originally published in Japanese. It basically follows this man who a couple of years ago adopted this stray cat. However, in the present day, he's having to rehome his cat, and it basically follows them as they travel around to his various relatives and friends, trying to find someone who can take in this cat. So you follow them in the present day on this road trip, but you also see flashbacks to this man's past, and yeah, it was heartwarming but also very sad. I wouldn't recommend this, I think, if you're struggling with loss or grief at the moment, because while it was heartwarming, it also broke my heart. I was ugly crying as I was reading this. Yeah, it was quite intense at times, even though it's not like a super dense writing style. I love books that are told from the perspective of a cat, and the cat in this sounded exactly how you would expect a cat to sound. They were very sarcastic and witty, and yeah, it's a very niche thing that I like in books, and I need to find more books that have that kind of point of view, because this was, yeah, 5 stars. I think it's going to be a favourite of the year. Next up, I read Verity by Colleen Hoover, and this was a very difficult book to review because I gave it 3 stars. However, I don't think that 3 stars does a very good job of summarising how I actually felt about it, because I think 3 stars usually means that I didn't have strong feelings about a book, but I had very strong feelings about this book as I was reading it. I couldn't work out if I was meant to be rooting for the characters or if they were meant to be unlikable, because this is a romantic thriller and I liked the thrilling aspects but I didn't like the romance. So basically we're following this main character who's hired to ghostwrite this book or this book series on behalf of this author who's been in an accident and she can no longer continue writing. However, this main character finds a diary that this author has written, and it reveals some shocking secrets, and there were times in this book where I felt so angry and frustrated, but I think that was kind of the point. Strong content warnings for child abuse in this. I wasn't expecting it to be so graphic, but yeah, it was a difficult one, because while I was gripped and I couldn't put this book down, I didn't like it. The atmosphere was really unsettling sparkling and there were some twists that I didn't see come in. But yeah, it was just a very confusing time. I gave it 3 stars, and I don't know whether I would go out of my way to recommend it, but I don't regret reading it because I've heard so much about this book and now my curiosity has been satisfied. Next up, I read The X-Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which is a contemporary romance that follows a main character called Shay who works at this public radio station, and there's this guy that she works with who she doesn't get along with because he's a bit of a know-it-all, even though she's worked at the station for a lot longer. So yeah, they don't really like each other. However, their boss forces them to present this new radio show together called The X-Talk. So they have to pretend to be exes even though they've never actually dated. So I did like that. I liked the concept and how it was a twist on the fake dating trope. However, I didn't love certain things in this book. I liked the beginning and how there was a lot of build-up and some good chemistry between the characters, and then there was a decent amount of smut in the second half, but the third act conflict annoyed me. I didn't like the way that the characters reacted to a certain situation, and I felt like the resolution was too rushed. I think it would have helped if this had been dual POV because it was just told from Shay's perspective, and I much preferred Dominic over Shay. I also couldn't understand why they were making such a big deal about the age gap. So I think Dominic is around 4 or 5 years younger than Shay, which isn't really a big deal, but they made it a big deal in the book. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars overall, and I would be interested in reading more books by this author. I think that's actually all of the books that I wanted to talk about in this wrap up. I don't know how long this video is going to be because I feel like I haven't been talking for that long, but I had a lot of middle of the road books in March that I don't really have a lot to say about. So yeah, I'm gonna end things here. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me. But otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye.